Good morning, dear all. Today we are going to solve Bihar Public Service Commission Assistant Professor Examination in Civil Engineering, advertisement number 44, 2021. In this paper, total question was 80 question, out of which 30 question was from engineering mathematics, and rest of the question was from technical, civil engineering technical. So we are going to solve today only technical questions. So let's go and start from question number 31. So very first question is, the question is from soil mechanics. Water content is given to us, that is 40%. Specific gravity is given to us 2.7, and wide ratio has been asked. So whenever this type of question has been asked, you just have to first of all see what are the data given to you, and then you have to use the formula, because in soil mechanics there are many formula. So in this case, water content is given to us, specific gravity given to us, and wide ratio has been asked. So there is a formula: degree of saturation multiplied by wide ratio is equal to water content into specific gravity. So you can use this formula since it is given that soil sample is saturated, so degree of saturation would become 1. So S would become 1 here. Now you can easily find the value of E, that means wide ratio. So wide ratio would come 1.08. Next question is, Westergaard theory is more suitable for. In this question, this type of question has been asked before too. Westergaard theory is primarily applicable to the layered soil. Whenever you will find soil having different strata as we go deeper and deeper. Suppose for in the upper layer for few centimeter or meter you will find sand, then clay, then silt, then rock. So whenever the soil layer is sandwiched, then Westergaard theory yield very good result. So in option are given layered soil, homogeneous soil, as anisotropic soil, and normally consolidated homogeneous soil. So these two option is the wrong one, but these two options are correct because anisotropic soil is the assumption of the Westergaard theory. So in the Boussinesq equation, the soil was isotropic, whereas in Westergaard theory, soil assumed as anisotropic soil, since the property are different in different direction because of the sandwich of various layers of the soil. But option number 1, that means layered soil, is also a right answer. So most probable answer from my opinion would be layered soil, because an isotropic soil is an assumption, but layered soil is a requirement wherever Westergaard theory can be used, or wherever Westergaard theory is used to find the vertical stress. Okay, so option C can also be right, but option A is the most prominent option as per my opinion. Next question is maximum size of plate for plate load test. First of all, plate load test is used to measure the two things. First thing is settlement, and second thing is strength. So plate load size, what is the, first of all I will tell you the brief description of plate load test. Plate load test, what we do, first of all we dig the trench at the level of the proposed foundation. Suppose we want to construct the foundation at depth of, suppose this is a ground level, and we want to construct the foundation at the depth of 2 meter, for example. So what we will do to test the strength of the soil, we will dig the trench for the testing purpose up to the same depth at which foundation is to be constructed. So at the same level, but the width would be 5 times of the plate width. Whatever the plate we are going to use, that excavation width should be 5 times of the width of the plate. And here we will insert or put our plate. Plate may be circular also, square shape also. In the most of the cases, circular shape is preferred. And then we will apply loading by jack. And we will measure the settlement at the different time interval, or maximum up to 25 mm deflection. So there is two criteria. First criteria is we will measure the deflection at different time interval. In this generally the time interval is 1 minute, 2.25 minute, 4 minute, 6.25 minute, 9 minute, 16 minute, 25 minute, and 1 hour. But we will also check the second criteria, that is 25 mm. If 25 mm we got in second minute, then we will stop the test there. So second criteria is also important criteria. So we have to use this test to measure the settlement value of a given soil. So now the plate size can be from 30 centimeter to 75 centimeter. It can be from 30 centimeter to 75 centimeter. It is given in IS 1888-1992. So test procedure, all the specifications is given in 1888-1992 IS code. You can refer there. The plate size should be between 30 centimeter and 75 centimeter. Also, the thickness of the plate should be minimum of 25 mm. So plate thickness cannot be less than 25 mm. Also, sitting load first of all applied, and which is equal to 70 gram per centimeter square. So in this question, maximum size of plate has been asked, so it would become 75 centimeter. Next question is, in which of the following pairs of the soil types would you anticipate negative pore water pressure when subjected to shearing? So this is a conceptual question. I will explain you about these all the parameters which will include in the question. Now what happens when soil is sheared? Depending upon the soil, either soil is dense sand or loose sand, normally consolidated clay or over consolidated clay, and also depends upon the test we are performing in the triaxial test, especially because in triaxial test we can also simulate the pore water pressure along with the shearing phenomena. So in triaxial test is performed in two stages. First is consolidation stage and second is shearing stage. So in two stage test is performed generally, and whenever we want to measure pore water pressure, the drainage should not be allowed. So drainage will be stopped and pore water pressure allows to develop so that we can measure. So generally in CU test, consolidated undrained test is performed for this purpose. In the first stage, consolidation allowed to happen, and in the second stage, drainage is not allowed and pore water pressure is measured. So CU test is generally preferred for this. Now the diagram, the values obtained by this experiment is plotted, and this result is somewhere like this. So we want to measure the pore water pressure. So pore water pressure, this is the positive side, this is negative side. Now the diagram of the pore water pressure is obtained like this. Now the upper diagram is for normally consolidated clay and lower diagram is for over consolidated clay. Also for dense sand, normally consolidated clay or loose sand. So what happens in over consolidated clay or dense sand? Initially the pore water pressure increases, but after some time pore water pressure starts decreasing because of the dilation phenomena, because dilation occurs in dense sand and over consolidated clay. But in normally consolidated clay and loose sand, what happens? As we apply shear force, what will happen? The pore water pressure will keep on increasing since the volume will decrease. So as the volume will be decreased, the pore water pressure will be increasing. So in this question, the answer would become dense sand and over consolidated clay. Option D. Moving forward to next question. Next question is from footing. 2-meter wide strip footing is given to us. Depth of foundation is given 2 meter. And deposit is clay. Water table is at ground level. Cohesion is given. Saturated unit weight is given. Best estimate for the net ultimate load has been asked. So it is also easy question. How we can solve it? To solve this question, we will use Terzaghi equation. We know very well Terzaghi equation. Just a minute. So Terzaghi equation tells us the equation for strip footing for cohesionless soil, but it has been asked for clay soil, that means cohesive soil. So Terzaghi equation, net ultimate bearing pressure, it is equal to CNC plus, I am writing here the whole equation, for it will applicable for the all the values. Bulk unit weight times Y plus DF minus Y gamma submerged plus half width gamma submerged into N gamma. So this is the equation for net ultimate bearing capacity as per the Terzaghi, applicable for the strip footing. Now whenever we are talking about the clay soil, we know that NQ and would become 1 and N gamma would become 0. So this term will be eliminated and this term will also be eliminated. So only thing will be C and C. That means cohesion times NC. And NC for the clay soil, we know very well that it would become 5.7. So CNC would become 5.7 times cohesion given as 3. So 5.7 into 3 would be the answer, that is 17.1. 17.1. So the nearest answer is 18 ton per meter. Next question is a fluid relative density 0.9, dynamic viscosity is given, flow is laminar between two parallel plates which is situated 3 centimeter apart, discharge is given to us, and shear stress has been asked at the boundary. I will explain the question in detail, just see the concept before. So what has been asked in this question, there is two fixed parallel plates, these two plates are fixed into the position and the fluid is flowing through it. Discharge is given 6 centimeter cube per second. Relative density is given 0.9, dynamic viscosity is given, the distance between these two plates is given as 3 centimeter. Now we know that the shear stress will be 0 at the center and maximum at the boundary. So diagram will be like this, and velocity diagram will be like this. So this is the shear stress diagram, this is the velocity diagram across the depth of the flow path. Now we have to derive or we have to find out the shear stress at this level, at the boundary. So it has been asked that what will be the shear stress in Pascal. Pascal means Newton per meter square at the boundary. So we have to find the shear stress at this point. So what we will do, we will use the formula and which is equal to discharge is equal to 1 upon 12 mu minus del P upon del X B raised to power cube. This is the discharge formula. So after inserting discharge value at 6, and B is nothing but B is the width of the plate or the space between the plates. So after inserting all the values, we can find the value of rate of change of pressure with respect to the distance. So minus dP by dx would become discharge times 12 into dynamic viscosity divided by B cube. So it would become, after inserting all the values, it would give you 3.2. Now what we have to find? We have to find the shear stress, and shear stress is equal to minus rate of change of pressure. Pressure is negative since the flow is in forward direction, times B by 2. Since we are finding the shear stress at boundary, so y becomes 0. So B by 2 minus y is also there. So y would be 0. So B by 2 terms will be there. And this would give us the value of 480 Pascal. So 480 Pascal will be the answer. In this question, if instead of discharge velocity is given to you, then there is a velocity formula, 1 upon 2 mu minus del P by del X By minus y square. So in this question, you have given also V and you have also given Q. So, but the procedure, rest of all the procedure would remain same. Either you have given velocity or discharge, you have to use out of these two formula, and then you have to find rate of change of pressure, and then ultimately you have to find discharge. Okay, moving forward. So the answer would be 480, option C. The terminal velocity of a small spherical settling in a viscous fluid varies as. So terminal velocity is generally derived from Stokes law, and Stokes law is GD square upon 18 mu into rho s minus rho w. Rho s is the density of the material or the particle which is falling, and rho w is the rho w or rho liquid, we can say. Whatever the liquid is there, we have assumed water there. So whatever the density of the liquid in which the particle is falling will be this. G is the specific, G is the gravitational force, D is the dia of the particle, mu is the dynamic viscosity of the fluid. Now we can see here this terminal velocity is proportional to d square, inversely proportional to mu. So option is inversely proportional to fluid viscosity would be the right answer. Inversely proportional to a square of the diameter, which is wrong, because it is directly proportional, not inversely proportional. Inverse of the diameter, no, it is directly proportional to the square of the diameter. First power of the diameter, no, it is second power of the diameter. So the answer would be 1. A triangular channel is given, slope is given, discharge is given, and critical depth is we have to find. Now to find the critical depth of any shape, this formula is used. Q square by Z is equal to AQ by T. For a triangular section, rectangular section, we know the formula, Q square upon Z raised to power 1 by 3. Once you will insert all the values of AQ and T for rectangular section, it would be this. But here it is asked to find the critical depth for triangular section. So what we will do, we will insert all the values for the triangular section and derive the equation for triangular section. So for triangular section, the formula for critical section or critical depth will be 2Q square upon gm square raised to power 1 by 5. So this would be the final formula to find the critical depth in case of triangular channel. So now it is very simple. You have to insert the discharge as 2. M is the nothing but slope. M is the slope. Which slope I am talking about? Suppose this is a triangular channel. So this would be the M and this would be the 1. So whatever the horizontal slope is there, that means 1.5 would be your M. Vertically it is taken as 1. So M would be here 1.5, and after calculating this YC you will get as 0.816, which is option B. You can also remember few things here from which question has been asked. The relation between critical depth and the energy at the critical depth for the triangular section, for the rectangular section. For a rectangular section, AC is equal to 3 by 2 YC. So relation between the energy and the critical depth is this for rectangular section. That means specific energy at the critical depth. So when the flow is at the critical depth, so what would be the specific energy? So specific energy would be 3 by 2 times. So if in the question critical depth is given to you and you are asking to find the energy, or what would be the energy, or energy is given to you at the critical depth. Now you have been asked to find the critical depth, then you can use this relation for rectangular section. Similarly, for triangular section, it is equal to 4 by 3 times y. Okay, next, moving ahead, hydraulic jump. This question is also a very popular question. Depending upon the Froude number, we have to find the type of jump that would form. So here I have already written all the types. From 1 to 1.7 Froude number, the jump is called undular. From 1.7 to 2.5, it is called weak jump. From 2.5 to 4.5, it is called oscillating jump. From 4.5 to 9, it is called a steady jump. And whenever Froude number is greater than 9, it is called a strong jump. So this thing you have to remember. This is also a very important and popular question. Moving ahead, two-way spanning slab. That means two-way slab is given to us. Corners of the slab are not allowed to lift. That means we have to design slab as a torsion resistant slab in form of meshing. We know that the torsion reinforcement are provided at the corners in form of meshing at the top and bottom. Whenever there are two discontinuous edges, right? So whenever there are two discontinuous edges, we have to provide the torsion reinforcement to resist the slab corners from lifting. So it has been asked if the slab is designed as torsion resistant slab. Now the meshing size, what should be this length and this length? It is the question asked in this question. So what should be the length of this? So as per IS 456, it is clearly mentioned in IS 456 that it is given in annexure D 1.8. So you can find this solution in IS 456 also in annexure D 1.8. So it is said there the distance, this distance and this distance, both of the distance should be equal to 1.5 of span. So either it is a LX or a LY. So 1 upon 5 times of the span would be the length of the meshing at top and bottom as well, right? So the answer would be 0.20. Also, it can also be asked in the question that what should be the area of steel. So area of steel would be 0.75 times of the AST at the mid section, that means positive reinforcement. So 0.75 times of the AST positive would be the AST for this meshing at top also, at bottom also. But whenever there is two discontinuous edge, this is the condition for whenever there is two discontinuous edge. Whenever there is only one discontinuous edge, that means suppose this edge is discontinuous and this is continuous, this is continuous, this is also continuous. So to resist the slab from lifting at this location, we will provide a meshing here. Now the meshing length would remain the same, length would not be affected, but the AST would be half of the 0.75 times of the AST positive divided by 2. That means it would be half only. So if there is two discontinuous edge, it would be 0.75 times. If it is one discontinuous edge, it would be 0.75 times of AST positive divided by 2. Moving ahead, next question is, in a balanced RCC section, M20 is the grade of concrete given, Fe415 is steel grade, modular ratio is given as 13, and depth of the neutral axis has been asked. So this is from working stress method as per IS 456 1984. So by using this formula, by using this code, we can find the depth of neutral axis using the working stress method. Now going ahead, and it has also been asked for a balanced section. That means I will write first of all the full formula. You can easily calculate for any condition. The formula for XU in case of working stress method is 1 upon 1 plus FST divided by M FCBC. FST is the stress in steel at centroid, whereas FCBC is stress in concrete at extreme fiber, compression fiber. So, and in case of balanced section, what would be the stress in steel? It would be the allowable stress in steel, that means sigma ST. And in concrete, it would be the allowable stress in concrete, that means sigma CBC, because we are using balanced section. So this term will be replaced as sigma ST and this would be replaced as sigma CBC. So now just we have to insert all the values. For Fe415, sigma ST as 230. So XU is equal to, you can write here, 1 upon 1 plus 230 divided by modular ratio is already given, 13 times, and sigma CBC for this grade, M20 grade, would be 7 megapascal. So after calculating this value, you would yield 0.283 times of the depth, effective depth. So 0.283D. So whenever you have asked to find the neutral axis depth in working stress method, you have to use this formula. If it is the balanced section case, then you have to replace the FST as sigma ST, that means allowable maximum stress for the steel grade, and FCBC as the sigma CBC, the allowable stress for concrete for the given grade. If you are asked to find, sometimes it has been also asked to find the lever arm. So whenever you are asked to find the lever arm would be 1 minus XU divided by 3 times of the depth. So 1 minus XU max, if it is balanced case, then XU max, otherwise XU upon 3 times the depth, effective depth of the beam. So this is the formula for lever arm. Okay, so 0.283 would be the answer. Moving ahead, next question is again from IS 456 1984. In a steel roof truss, if angle iron purlin is used. Now you know purlin is used as a beam in case of roof truss. Purlin is the same as the beam in RCC, but purlin is inclined. Whenever the roof is not straight, whenever roof is inclined, just like in industrial building, we use purlin for of a steel section. Then the depth criteria is what is the depth criteria given in IS 8 as 4 as 800, because we are dealing with steel. So in IS 800 clause number 6.9.2, it is clearly given. Now there three things are given. Just keep in mind, for a purlin there are the three criteria is given. For the depth, it is given that it should not be less than the 1/45th of the span of the purlin. For the depth, it is 1/45th of the span of the purlin. Second criteria is for the width of the angle purlin. We are talking about the angle purlin. Whenever the purlin is used made of angle section, ISA section. So we are dealing with angle section. So in this case, the depth should not be less than this value, 1/45th of the span of the purlin, whereas width of the angle section should not be less than 1/60th of the span of the purlin. So for the depth 1/45th, and for the width it is 1/60th of the span. Also, sometimes it has been also asked that what should be the bending moment. So bending moment formula is also given in IS code, and bending moment formula for a purlin is WL/10. So these three things you have to remember while you are dealing with the angle section. Or this bending moment formula would remain always same. Bending moment formula will not going to change, but this thing is only applicable for an angle section. Whenever we are using angle section as a purlin, then these two criteria you have to keep in mind. For a depth 1/45th, and for width 1/60th. One more thing, when we are talking about purlin is designed as a continuous beam. Just remember, purlin is designed as a continuous beam. Moving ahead, next question. Next question is limiting deflection for a steel to become supporting floor and false ceiling. It is again from IS 800 1984. So it is span upon 325. Okay, next question is from surveying. The tilt displacement of an aerial photograph is radial from. So first of all, we will understand what is tilt. What is tilt displacement? And then we will easily able to interpret what is tilt displacement and from where it is calculated. Tilt displacement is nothing but whenever we are taking photograph from, suppose, this point, and this is the image. Whenever our camera is straight, that means photograph is horizontal. And if we are taking a tilted photograph like this, so what will happen? There is only one point at which the point in the both of the cases, either in tilted photograph or the horizontal photograph, would be same. But beyond this, what will happen? In this case, this point will appear as a higher as compared to this. Whereas in this side, actual in horizontal photograph, it would appear as upper level, and in the tilted photograph, it would appear as a downward level. So this is called tilt displacement. So now it is to measure how much a point has been displaced due to the tilted photograph. So it is always measured from ISO center point. ISO center point is nothing but, this is supposed tilting angle. So this is from tilting angle. Earlier our camera was like this, and now we have tilted our camera like this. So tilted photograph will be obtained. So whatever the tilting angle, whenever a bisector will be drawn, and whenever it will intersect at this point would be called as isocenter point. So tilt photograph of an aerial photograph is always taken radially from isocenter point. Okay, moving forward, radius of curvature of an ideal transition curve should be. So we are talking about ideal transition curve. So we know that the ideal transition curve, the radius initially is taken as infinite, and as we progress, as the length of the transition curve increases, the radius decreases and ultimately matches the radius of the circular curve at the end of the transition curve, or at the starting of the circular curve. So the radius variation is inversely proportional to the length. As the length would increase, the radius would decrease, because radius from in the radius we are decreasing from the infinite to the finite radius to match the radius of the transition curve with the circular curve, that are going to match at the starting of the circular curve as well, and at the end of the circular curve as well. Also, this R is also related with V square upon E. So if you are asked, just like in this options, inversely proportional to its length, this in this question, this is the correct option. But these we will also see these options: directly proportional to the length, so this is the wrong answer. Proportional to the speed of the vehicle, so this is the wrong. If it is proportional to the square of the speed of the vehicle, so R is also related with the speed of vehicle by this relation, V square upon E. So proportional to the square of the velocity and proportional to the super elevation. No, it is inversely proportional to the super elevation. So I have written this formula, and the actual formula is E is equal to 1.18 V square upon R. So here this R is directly proportional to V and inversely proportional to super elevation. Okay, so moving forward, next question. A and B are two traverse station free from local attraction. So it is A and B station which is free from local attraction, and the true bearing is given to us, which is 89 degrees. So this is A and this is B. This is the true north, true west, and true bearing is given as 89 degrees. Now it is also given that the magnetic declination at point A is 1 degree west. That means declination means our magnetic compass is showing magnetic north 1 degree towards the west as compared to the true north. So this is 1 degree towards west. So this is the magnetic north. This is magnetic north, this is true north, and this is 1 degree displaced. Now the magnetic bearing has been asked of line BA. So you are asked to find the magnetic bearing of line BA. So now you have to find the magnetic bearing of BA. So first of all, we will find the magnetic bearing of AB. So magnetic bearing of AB would be 89 degree plus 1 degree. That means it would be 90 degree. And for BA, it would be the back bearing. So back bearing would be 180 minus 90. So it would be 90 degrees. So we know the sum of the back bearing and forward bearing is always equal to 180. So it would be, yes, so forward bearing is equal to 90 degree. So now you can easily see if this is a straight line. So here the back bearing would be this much. This is forward bearing and this is back bearing. So it would be 270 degrees. Simple. The formula is also the back bearing is equal to forward bearing plus minus 180 degree. So whenever forward bearing is greater than 180 degree, you have to use minus sign. And whenever forward bearing is less than 90, then you have to use plus sign. So 90 plus 180. Okay, so moving ahead. So in this case, 270 would be the answer. Finding RL. This is a very simple question from labeling. Just you have to understand the concept. Find the RL of the roof slab of a building. Staff reading were taken from a particular setup of the leveling instrument. The reading were this much with the staff on a benchmark. So first of all, staff is set up at the benchmark and the reading was 1.05 and 2.3 meter with the staff below the roof slab and held inverted. So suppose this is the roof and here staff has been kept inverted in the downward direction, and now the reading taken as 2.3 meter. So it is mentioned in diagram. Now taking the RL of the RL of benchmark is given as 135.15 meter. The RL of the roof slab would be, so simple thing is that this is the level that is representing 135 meter. So we will move from this point to this point by adding this 1.05. So whenever you will add 1.05, it would become 136.20. That means 136.20 is the RL of this axis, line of sight, and now we have to move from this to this location. So to reach the RL of from RL of line of sight to the RL of roof slab, you have to add this reading. So it would become 138.5. So option D would be the answer. Next question is, steel chimney has 20 meter length. That means height of the stack is given as 20 meter. For analysis, the effective length is taken as. So we know that whenever one of the end is fixed end, another end is free end, the effective length is 2 times of the unsupported length. So it would be 40 meter. The ratio of maximum shear stress to average shear stress in a beam of rectangular cross section is. This question is also a popular question, but very easy question. I will tell you all the common relations. Which you have to remember. The most efficient way to solve the questions or to crack the examination is to remember only important thing, remember only relevant thing. Do not remember the unnecessary thing. It will fill your hard disk unnecessarily. Okay, so the common relations are tau max is equal to 3 by 2 tau average for a rectangle. Tau max is equal to 4 by 3 tau average for circular. Tau max is equal to 9 by 8 tau average for I section. So just remember these three very popular relation. For rectangle section, it is 1.5. For circular section, it is equal to 4 by 3. For I section, it is equal to 9.9 by 8. And for triangular section, you have to remember two things. There is a shear stress at neutral axis and there is a shear stress, maximum shear stress and average shear stress relation. So for triangular section, tau max is equal to 3 by 2 tau average. That means same as for the rectangular section, and tau at neutral axis is equal to 4 by 3 of tau average. So this is 5 relation you have to keep in mind. Questions can be asked from any relations, but most of the time either it is rectangular, circular or triangular section. So in triangular section, tau max is not at the location of neutral axis. This thing you have to remember. But in the rectangle section and in the circular section, tau max is at the centroid location. In the rectangle section, tau max or the shear stress variation is like this. In the circular section also the variation is same. So neutral axis and the line of maximum shear stress would be the same. Whereas in triangular section, the neutral axis would be below. So the shear stress will be maximum h by 6 distance above from the neutral axis. So this is the relation that you have to remember. This value has been also asked sometime. Okay, so maximum shear stress to average shear stress for rectangular section has been asked. So now you can easily say it is 1.5. A circular shaft subjected to twisting moment MT and bending moment M ratio. This question is also a very popular question. So in this case, I will tell you the trick to remember it. There is only two relation, 2m by t. So now you have to, what you have to keep in mind, what has been asked in the ratio, what is as denominator, what is as numerator. So in this case, bending moment, ratio of the bending moment to the twisting moment has been asked. So if bending moment is in numerator, then 2m will be in upward side. If it has been asked the ratio of torsion to the bending moment, then t by 2m. So 2m by t is the B option. Next question is modulus of elasticity. Okay, from this we will be covering in the second part. Thank you all. Thanks for the watching.